Welcome to the Upside Down. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with our series Calling All Jews. So, like we said, this one is called The Upside Down. Now, before we get started, I just want to mention some incredible things that have happened over this last week in Israel. Every day there's something new, but we just had Tu B'Av on, I believe it was Sunday night, going on to Monday. And it's a very auspicious time. It's a very holy time, very high time for Israel. You could look it up, all the events that took place on that day. But it was also the unity of Israel, where the tribe of Benjamin was almost completely wiped out in the book of Judges. And at that moment, there was, again, they reunited with their brethren. They started marrying with one another, and everything turned out okay. Yeah, but so it's a time of unity. It is a time of love. It is a time of finding one's zivug. And historically a very good time for Israel, particularly after Tisha B'Av, right? Just a few days before. So what happened on the eve of Tu B'Av, of the 15th of Av? There was a suicide bomber came to Tel Aviv. You heard about this, I hope. And there was a massive explosion on the street in Tel Aviv. And my understanding is only the guy blew himself up. But all these events were caught on the camera. He walked up to a synagogue in Tel Aviv, inside the shul. There were several minions davening at the same time. There was even a wedding that took place over there. There were over 150 people in that small shul over there. This guy walked up to the stairs, looked inside, walked out to the park bench just 10 meters from the shul. The understanding is that he was going to activate or arm the device in his blue backpack and go back in there, and that would have been 150 people. Massive explosion. Bottom line is he blew himself up 10 meters away from the shul on the park bench. You could see the video, the footage. It's completely insane. Baruch Hashem protecting us like that on that day. The other thing that happened towards the end of the day, less than 24 hours later, still on Tu B'Av, where we released the bodies of 6 of the hostages, all deceased, obviously. In addition, what's happening right now in Yemen, the Houthim, the ones who like to take down ships and fire rockets on us as well. We haven't heard from them in a while. Why? Because there are massive floods right now in Yemen. Floods and storms unlike has ever been in the history of recorded humanity, right? And if you just look at the footage over there, they're like, what is going on? Why is it? I wonder why this is happening. You're messing with God's kids way too close to the time of the end. And also, look what's happening in Iran. Massive floods are hitting them like crazy. So in the meantime, everybody is being kept busy. All the pieces are falling into place. And now we're going to look at some things that have been written over 2,000 years ago and how relevant it is not only to today's time, but today right now. So let's get into it. We as Israel have always meant to know the signs of the times. How do we know these things? Read Genesis 1:14. And God said, let there be luminaries in the expanse of the heavens to separate between the day and between the night, and they shall be for signs and for appointed seasons and for days and years. In other words, this is according to the calendar, but not only according to the calendar, what happens then? What came into play afterwards? So this timeline, God's timeline, right? Since the days of Adam, who shared these with Seth, who shared these with Enosh, Mehalalel, and Enoch, Methuselah, Noach, Shem, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and then Joseph. When Joseph and his brothers passed, these things were kept by God until he gave them personally over to Moses, which is what we read in Pirkei Avot 1. Moses received the Torah at Sinai and transmitted it to Joshua, Joshua to the elders to the prophets to the men of the great assembly. Anshe Knesset Agdolah, especially during the Second Temple period, and all the sages, and they passed it along until this very day. So all the halachot that we go by today is halacha leMoshe miSinai. Moses received this. There is the written law, and then there is the oral law, explaining how the written law is to be broken down. And again, the oral law is not made up out of thin air. These are not man-made things. If you actually read Mishnah and Talmud, you see it's all from biblical verses. What does this mean? And the explanation that comes from it. And if you actually sat down, took the time to learn, you see, oh, this makes perfect sense. What would we do without the oral law? Nothing, because half the things, if not more, that we're doing today is because we have an explanation of how to do it. Okay, so what does the word Torah mean? It comes from the word hora'ah. Torah, hora'ah, lehorot, instruction. Now, I know it's translated as law, which it is correct. Yes, there's a law, but really it shows us how to live and what we need to be paying attention to. That is hora'ah, instruction. This is how you live. These are not suggestions. These are commands. If you follow them, it will be good for you. And if not, it will be less good for you. Ideally, when we follow these laws, we won't need to lock our doors at night, but that's only going to happen in the days of Mashiach. Everything needs to just completely explode beforehand. Within our Torah, there are also 4 levels of comprehension: the Pshat, the Remez, the Drash, and the Sod. The Pshat is the simple text that anyone can read. Only in Hebrew, of course, is this relevant. The Remez, the hints, like numerical values and interchangeable letters, phonetically similar sounding letters, only relevant, of course, if it's in Hebrew. Drash, midrash, this is commentary that is largely based on extra biblical texts over the ages. And sod, secret, that is Kabbalah. These 4 are also known as the pardes, orchard, roughly translated. And we are commanded to learn them all, even if we do not understand, because it is written in Joshua 1:8. This book of the Torah shall not leave your mouth. You shall meditate therein day and night. V'hagita bo yomam v'layla. Right? It does not say that you shall know it or that you shall understand it, but meditate on it. Toil in it. If you understand, good for you. God is the one that gives you understanding. But if not, you still receive reward for the attempt, says the Vilna Gaon. Now, there are many ways to understand the signs of the times, one of which is prophecy, and they were written only in the Tanakh. Well, I mean, what's relevant for the end time anyway? Masechet Megillah 14a says, 48 prophets and 7 prophetesses prophesied on behalf of Israel, and they neither subtracted from nor added unto what is written in the Torah. In other words, a prophet should never change anything. A prophet is not allowed to change anything. A prophet gives directly what God says, that's what comes out. That's why it says, who is greater, a wise man or a prophet? And a wise man is greater because a prophet has to, again, a prophet is a messenger. God said, this is what God said, but a wise man could start extrapolations, okay? But that's not all. So a few lines down, it says this: there were more prophets, meaning in Israel, as taught in a Braita. Many prophets arose from Israel, numbering double the number of Israelites who left Egypt. How many Israelites left Egypt? We're talking about men from the ages of 20 and up, 600,000. And so over the years, until prophecy ceased in the earlier years of the Second Temple, Israel had roughly 1.2 million prophets. However, only a portion of prophecies were recorded because only prophecy that was needed for future generations was written. But that which was not needed, as was not significant to later generations, that was not written down. Again, we know that Elijah, Eliyahu Navi, he had a school of prophets. Back in the day, you could have become a prophet. There's actually, there's a rule book. Okay, first you have to purify yourself, then you have to go and eat the dut, and then you got to go sit under a tree. You have to constantly be happy. And then also, you help, you would have certain prophets, they would have musicians coming out there kind of to get them into a meditative state. And then once they reach that certain level with Ruach HaKodesh, then that brings them up to the level of Nevuah. And so several levels beneath prophecy, like we just said, there is Ruach HaKodesh. And King David was the number one Ruach HaKodesh guy. Ruach HaKodesh is a certain understanding, premonition that can guide everything that you do. It is, again, it's nowhere near prophecy, but what comes out ultimately, yes, is prophetic. David wrote the book of Psalms through Ruach HaKodesh. And over the last 2,000 years since our exile, our sages had Ruach HaKodesh, and the stuff they wrote down is fascinating and oh so relevant. As the years went by, the language became more relatable for our times, not to mention as the time of the redemption drew near, right? The gap started to close, like we discussed in last class. And so as Jews who have been blessed and burdened with carrying the Torah, the instruction, the law until Mashiach comes, as Jacob blessed Judah in his prophecy throughout the ages and for the time of the end, Genesis 49:10, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, Jews, yes, nor the student of the law from between his feet until Shiloh comes, and to him will be a gathering of the peoples. Here's a hint for you. Shiloh is Gematria Moshe, numerical value of Moshe. Okay, there's a whole other thing on that. This ain't the class, though. It is our responsibility to research and know our heritage, to be able to discern the signs of the times, so we can prepare accordingly. All the answers are in our books, everything, but our people, unfortunately, have no interest. What they care about is the way of the world. Again, these are very harsh words that will be said here today, okay? It's not easy to do. It is taking a toll on me, I'll be very honest with you. But these things need to be said. But there is comfort in the end always, all right? So what our fellow Jews and, everybody in the world cares about is really the way of the world. As it was, so it will be. From Hosea 4:6, my people were silenced for lack of knowledge. V'nidmu ami mibli adat. What is nidmu? Vayidom Aharon. Aaron was silent, right? Silence, snuffed out it almost means. For the lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you from being a ruler to me. Seeing that you have forgotten the Torah of your God, I too will forget your children. We don't want any of this, right? We can always change this. Now, wisdom is something you were born with and you can also develop, right? Understanding is granted to you along the way by God regarding certain things, right? It's like, oh, that person is understanding. You receive understanding for, let's say, a text that you're reading, and that only comes from God. But knowledge is what anyone can acquire, right? Knowing things does not make you wise, okay? It makes you knowledgeable. There is a huge difference. And as Jews, we don't have a choice. We will be judged on this. Everything has been placed before us, but no one is going to force us to delve. That has to be a choice. So I hope you choose wisely today and take a look at what our sages wrote through Ruach HaKodesh for the signs of our today, our times, as applicable not only to this era, but like we said, to this very day. I know many people have done these passages before, as have I, but this is a new series for a specific crowd, not to mention that this is more relevant not only a few years ago, okay, when we discussed this for the first time, but today. And so, my fellow Jews, this is for you. From Mishnah Sota, chapter 9, the last paragraph, or almost before the end. Today's news, written over 2,000 years ago. And it says, this is everything that is going to happen be'ikavot Meshicha, in the heels of Mashiach. What does this mean? People translate it to in the footsteps. That's not the case at all. It literally says be'ikavot, heels, akev, ekev, heels. Mashiach represents the final tikkun olam, tikkun adam, rectification of the world, of man. The highest part of man is obviously the top of the head. And that rectification already began with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They started the primary tikkun for Adam. But the last generation is called the heels of Mashiach because it is literally the lowest part of man, the heels, beneath your feet, right? There's no more lower place than that. That's it. And this is where we are. How do we know that this is where we are? Let's read, right? So are we there? Are we the last generation? Let's see what it says. Be'ikvot Mashiach, in the heels of Mashiach, chutzpah yisge. Impudence, insolence will increase. We all know what chutzpah is, right? Okay. What does this mean? Oh, and by the way, none of these were relevant until Israel were back in the land of Israel. Okay, so this could have only begun in 1948. And then I would say, I dare to say even more so, only begun after 1967, right? And we'll get to that. Okay, so what does this mean? Chutzpah yisgeh, this is the state of the world. What is chutzpah? Chutzpah is like brazenness, right? Like, what are you going to do about it? This is what I'm doing. Go ahead. Okay. Let's take some examples from around the world. In the US, this is like thrusting one of the dumbest people in existence as a presidential candidate without a single vote being cast. And the people just take it, right? Just take it. Sure, okay. So I guess this is it. You're just taking it. This is chutzpah that they're doing this. In Canada, this is like freezing the bank accounts and assets of peaceful protesters against the government. What? In the UK, throwing people in prison for writing words that hurt someone's feelings. This is happening. In Israel, this is like not responding to an invasion for 12 hours after days, weeks, and months of direct warning, when it takes no more than 2 hours to get to the scene from almost anywhere in the country. It's an hour and a half drive to Gaza from here. This is like charging the civilians with murder, that our civilians murdered the invading terrorists, who did the absence army's job by killing terrorists who raped, pillaged, tortured, and murdered our people. Yes, our courts are charging them with murder. No joke. This is like blaming the victim of a heinous crime while still holding onto our hostages. This is the very definition of chutzpah. It's like you want to pull your hair out, say, what? This is what's happening all over the world because they know that there's no one who can stand up to them. What are you going to do about it? There is no reproof, and we're going to see this. Remember, at no other time in our history did these things that we are going to read here today all happen, okay? Not even a year ago. Watch. Behold, the chutzpah continues. Ve'yoker ya'amir. High costs will pile up. Globally, people are getting paid less while living expenses rise like crazy. Why is this? Every attempt to lower the cost of living is being undone by the governments who are running the global economy into the ground. This is no coincidence that they're making obviously bad decisions. I mean, obviously bad. Why would you do that? Gaslighting, everything. I mean, just look, you know what? Stop listening to people. Look at the final results. They kind of speak for themselves, right? Okay. For example, lockdowns for months on end where 50% of the country loses their private businesses. They don't want private, you see? They want all the businesses. Any of these things would have been called a conspiracy theory just a few short years ago, except it happened. But wait, there's more. Not because there's a lack of anything that prices are going up. That's not the case. It says, "Hagefen titen et pirya v'hayayin beyoker." The vine shall bring forth its fruit. In other words, there is plenty of everything. There is an abundance of everything. But the wine will nevertheless be expensive. Why? Why? There's no shortage in the world of anything. There are only those in power who selectively funnel it to wherever they funnel it to, which is not to you. Here in Israel, we have so much farmland, so much. But the farmers are made or paid to burn their crops in order for us to purchase produce from other countries, hiking the prices for no reason. Well, they have their reasons, right? Slowly but surely breaking society. Israel has everything we need to self-sustain, but Big Brother will not allow it, and people are questioning, but there's no one to talk to. Why? V'hamalchut tehafech leminut. And the malchut, the rulers, right? The governing bodies shall turn to heresy. Be very afraid of your governments. Whichever government, it doesn't matter. They do not have your best interest at heart. If you can't see that, no matter where you are, especially after the last 4 years. I wish you the best of luck, because if it hasn't happened already, your world is about to be shattered. And no, you ain't seen nothing yet. Get with the program. Ve'ein tochacha. There is no reproof. There is no one to talk to and no one to listen. This is chutzpah. How could it be that our bloodthirsty enemies, who are holding men, women, and children hostage, right? We all saw what they did. They posted what they did. They boasted by what they posted, by what they did. Who did everything they did that day are receiving. How could this be that they are receiving humanitarian aid from those they attacked? We're sending the trucks in there. Why do we give them gas, electricity, and water? I don't know. Why do we allow hundreds of truckloads to enter when we clearly know where it goes? We even have it on video. Send it in, Hamas climbs on top, they kill their own people, they take the trucks. Thanks, suckers. That's what's happening. It doesn't matter if it's a right or left-wing government. There is no justice. Because Beit Vad iye liznut. The meeting place of the rulers, Vad, right? Call it the Knesset, will become a place of znut. From the word Zona. What is Zona? Oh, prostitute, whore. Yeah, that's it. Over 2,000 years ago. Thanks for the update, sages. As in, pay to play. Everything is corrupt to the core. Because this is the system of the world. It's not only in Israel or in the States or in the West. It's everywhere. This is the current world system. The very system that God warned us about. That's why we were given our own laws to live by. That's why we were called to separate from the nations, from the ways of the world, because these are the ways of the world. And so Israel is also living by the ways of the world. We're all in it. Don't worry. God's going to make that separation. This is a system you cannot fix from within, because you either lose yourself in it or you die trying. Look at what comes next. V'hagalil yecherav v'hagavlan ishom. And the Galilee will be destroyed, and the Golan will be desolate. Now, like we said, these words were not relevant until 1967. We didn't even have the Golan. But today, okay, so since 1967 until today, what's going on? Do you know that there are close to 200,000 residents who had to evacuate because they're getting fired upon on a daily basis? On a daily basis. Yesterday, there are more rockets, dozens and dozens of rockets and anti-tank missiles going into private homes, into Katsrin. It's insanity. What's going on? Where's the protection? Nothing. There is nothing, right? This is the Golan and the Galil. So again, the Galil will be destroyed and the Golan will be desolate. Behold, we are definitely on our way. Not only from our northern borders, though, but from our southern borders as well, right? What happened around Gaza? All the citizens over there, and look what it says next. V'anshei hagvul yosevavu me'ir le'ir v'lo yechonenu. And the people of the borders, it doesn't say north or south borders, it says the borders, will go from city to city, but will receive no rest. They're in various different hotels and different centers and going from place to place, living out of hotel rooms. Why? Their homes are completely destroyed. Hundreds of thousands. We don't have that many people here in Israel. Literally our northern and southern borders. This has never happened before, people. This has not happened, what I'm reading to you today. And it's happening right now, and it's getting worse and worse every single day. Do you see how these prophecies are closing up the time gap for us? The heels of Mashiach is in the final generation. You need to know where you are right now. Let's see what else is going on today, as written by our sages 2,000 years ago. V'chochmat sofrim tisrach. The wisdom of the scribes will putrefy, decay. Lisrach is masriach, is to stink, right? There was a time when our leaders would consult with our rabbis. There was also a time when our rabbis were real men with backbones, right? Where before, it's a famous story where, who is it? I think it was Menachem Begin. He was one of the only good, we'll call it politicians, one of the only good, I would say the only good prime minister of Israel. How did he greet everybody? Achai HaYehudim, my fellow Jews. Ah, this guy. Anyway, they were going to bomb the, nuclear facility in Iraq. By the way, the new Top Gun movie, Top Gun 2, right? That happened. That's based on a true story. That happened in 1981. So you have Ilan Ramon, our astronaut who got taken out in the space shuttle, right? He was one of the young pilots over there. And I saw him in this interview, obviously before he was taken out. And he's sitting there with the microphone and he says, listen, they told us what would happen, but there was no way that we would be able to complete our mission and then fly back to base. In other words, it was a suicide mission. But he said, you know what? Let's do it. His parents, Holocaust survivors, they all try to kill us. Why not? We're going to stop a nuclear holocaust from Saddam Hussein. Let's take this seriously. So Menachem Begin, the government, and all the generals, they went to Rav Kaduri. Rav Kaduri, a great Makubal, one of the Gdolei Adol. And they said, listen, we want to do our military operation on this and this day, on this and this time. Rav Kaduri said, no, you could do it on this day, but I want you to change it to this and this time. He told them the time to change it. Why? He goes, because when you want to do it, the yeshiva students, the yeshiva bachars, the guys who are learning Torah, they're going to be on break. We need them all in there, and we will spread the word that they're going to focus for the safety and security of the pilots and the mission success while they're learning Torah. They changed this whole military operation around, specifically because of what Rav Kaduri said. And not only was it a mission success, the stories you hear about that, they flew back on empty with F-16s on empty from Iraq to Israel. And not only that, they even did some flybys. It was a miracle, flying on fumes, and yet the gauge just never, it was empty, but the plane was still flying. So we see miracles happen when our leaders recognize the godly people over here. So when would be the best time to do this? Okay? So once upon a time, they used to consult with rabbis. Once upon a time, the rabbis used to have a backbone. There was a time when our rabbis were not bought and paid for and served no agenda except speaking the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help them God. And that's why the real rabbis of today speak only to those who seek them out. They don't speak publicly. That's why the real rabbis of today are hidden. Because if they ever spoke words of truth to the general public, including and especially the pretend bought and paid for rabbis, the brazen, the corrupt media will pounce on them like rabid dogs. Their wisdom, which is the wisdom, disgusts the public. I don't care what a rabbi has to say. Who are you listening? They're listening to these other rabbis, of course. And that, all right. Why aren't you walking around with a yellow pin on your shirt? People say, right? Why do I need to walk around with the yellow pin on my shirt? Well, to show solidarity with the hostages. Well, why did this happen in the first place? You are aware that the people who clearly let this happen, it's already been proven, in the first place are the same people who are running these operations. Yes, same people. No different. All the while funneling food, supplies, gas, and water to our people's captors. So really, who's running this operation? Who is really responsible here? So is wearing a yellow pin going to do anything? No. But at least people know that I'm aware and relevant to what's going on. Here's a thought, just throwing it out there. Why don't we all pray to God as a nation, do tshuva as a nation, right? Who is living in the days right now before the coming of Mashiach, follow God's laws, and then the hostages will be returned to us along with a very sincere apology from their captors. Nonsense, they say. Okay. And so keep wearing those yellow pins. They look really cool. See, that's the difference. A sage, a wise person will tell you, you want to know how to get the hostages back? Here's how we get them back. Or, no, bring them home now. Deal now. What deal now? Deal now with who? Since when do we start negotiating with terrorists? When terrorists are the ones negotiating with terrorists. It's very simple. Just got to open your eyes just a little bit more. Which leads us to our next point. Ve'irei chet imasu. Those who fear sin will be held in disgust. God forbid that Jews in the land of Israel should be allowed to congregate once a year in public with a mock partition without the municipality and its lunatics losing their damn minds, without the locals disrupting prayers on the holiest day of our year, Yom Kippur, with tasers, bullhorns, whiskey and beers, shoving, shouting, chanting in the ears of those who pray, I hate you. If you haven't seen this, you will be embarrassed to be a Jew when you see this. Into the ears of those Jews who went to pray to God. Without the municipality of the self-appointed gay capital of the Middle East, that's Tel Aviv, by the way, and their courts put out an order prohibiting this from happening, only to allow the Muslim minority the same rights in public without batting an eye, of course. I'm telling you, I've never been more ashamed of my people when I saw something like that. And yet people still don't make that connection that what happened there and then what happened 10 days later have anything to do with each other. I've never in my life seen such seething hatred of Jews coming from other Jews. And so, as our verse said, those who fear sin will be held in disgust. That's what was coming from them. Disgusting. Sometimes you see these Chabad stands, they want to put tefillin on people, right? And so young secular Jews are coming over like, yeah, sure, I love to put on tefillin. And you have these people, again, I'm not saying the general public, not at all, nor am I saying the city of Tel Aviv. It was the municipality of Tel Aviv and the citizens of Tel Aviv, not all of them. The other citizens of Tel Aviv wanted to pray, right? It's not everybody, but you have the vocal minority, the crazies from everywhere, but these are the ones actually sitting in these positions of influence. So you have these other people coming over there trying to rip the tefillin off the people. One of the parliament members, she wanted to make it illegal, as in like a criminal offense if someone would put tefillin on somebody else in public. In Israel. You see what's happening. Upside down. Okay, this happens. None of these things are being made up. So this is what we said, the fear of those who fear sin will be held in disgust. Yes, okay. V'haemet tiyeh ne'ederet, and the truth shall be absent. If you think there's something wrong with you, listen to me right now. If you, wherever you are, whoever you may be, if you think that there is something wrong with you right now for looking at the world the way it is, the way things are, from every aspect and seeing that it is wrong, something's wrong, that is a lie, it's perverted, it's unjust, and it's also getting worse, then I'm here to tell you, there's actually nothing wrong with you. I'll be the Morpheus to your Neo, okay? You are not crazy. You see the truth. But it is time to wake up and unplug. Look at what Isaiah 59, 14 to 15 says. And justice has turned away backwards, and righteousness stands from afar. For truth has stumbled in the street, and straightforwardness cannot come. And truth is lacking. Vati haemet ne'ederet. Yes? Now look what it says next. And he who turns away from evil is considered mad. If you want to do the right thing, if you want to do what is good, you will be considered insane by the public. You understand, okay? And the Lord saw and was displeased, for there is no justice. Today, if evil is so clearly running the world right now and you don't go along with it, you will be considered mad. You will be deemed insane. You will be called a conspiracy theorist. You will lose friends and family. You might even be confined to your home. You might even have to give DNA. What, you think I'm joking right now? You might not be allowed in public areas without showing your papers. No, this is not 1930s Germany. This is Israel just a couple of years ago. As the brainwashed public become nothing more than the cogs of the powers that be, enforcing their law, turning on you. Everything I'm saying, this is reality. This is not fiction. These are not theories. This has happened. It is currently happening. And now, after all was said and done, after the truth has already come out about, the last global issue that happened, the one they so desperately tried to hide, they pretend like it never happened. We don't forget. We witnessed what went down here. They showed their true faces and true colors in a time when unity among our people mattered most. They turned on their brethren, be it out of fear, misinformation, propaganda, none of which is an excuse. They failed the test and should pray to God that they are around long enough to redeem themselves. Countless lives have been destroyed, families shattered, businesses blown to hell. But no one talks about it. It's like nothing happened. Oh, but it did. Na'arim pnei zkenim yalbinu, zkenim ya'amdu mipnei ktanim. The youth will shame the face of the elders. Elders will stand before minors. Once upon a time, not even 30 or 40 years ago, we ascribed wisdom, intelligence, accomplishments, medical and scientific breakthroughs that improved mankind, right? We gave that kavod, we gave that honor. But then they started to give Nobel Peace Prizes to literal murderers with blood on their hands. Yeah, Yasser Arafat. Murderer. Nothing but Nobel Peace Prize winner? Maybe there's something a little bit off there, I'd say. Or it's a sad excuses for presidents who did nothing and yet received the same award. Anyway, trophies, platforms, and the recognition of excellence were replaced by participation badges. Women are replaced by mentally ill men who have been encouraged and are being encouraged by the sick general public. And they're telling you that that is what is normal. Who influences kids today? Who are the heroes that the kids look up to? Do you understand that this generation is going to be running the world in 10 years? So like it or not, the world as we have known it, as we can already barely remember it, is over. Okay? It's happening now or it's happening in 10 years anyway. We're not continuing like this. Everything is upside down. Now, this next part from the Mishnah is directly taken from Micah chapter 7. Ben menabel av, bat kama beima, kala b'chamuta, oivei ish anshe beto. A son disgraces his father, a daughter rises up against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Well, at least there's some consistency over the ages, yes? Once upon a time, if we opened our mouths to our parents, God help us. Today, the government is helping your 6-year-old take puberty blockers behind your back. And if you dare, attempt to correct your own children, then God help you. Kind of backwards, right? Upside down a little bit. Okay. A man's enemies will be the members of his household, says our text. House as in family, wherever you may be, and house as in the house of Israel. What do we say before in the previous teachings about civil war? Pnei hador ke pnei hakelev. The face of the generation is like the face of a dog. And also it says, our sages say, that whatever king or ruler, prime minister, whatever, that is the leader of whatever nation that is, you can't be mad at that because that leader is the face of that nation. But the face of the generation in general is like the face of a dog. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a dog person, man's best friend and all that good stuff. But when it comes to correcting a spirited dog, a dog that if no one put in check could maul someone or even harm itself, that's when you have to take out the stick, right? Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Psalms 23, it's the same stick used as a rod or as a staff. Different functions, but it's a stick nonetheless. A correcting tool for our own benefit. And what does a dog do when you come at it with the stick? It believes that the stick is the source of its problems instead of looking to the master. What does a smart dog? Okay, wait a minute, hold on. Who's holding on to this stick? Okay, I need to do something from here. Example, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, liberals, lockdowns, segregation, frozen assets. loss of freedoms, all sticks. And look who's biting. God is holding that stick and he's beating us over the head with it right now because we're still asleep. And before you start complaining about how God runs his world, believe me, you don't want the alternative. If we're fortunate enough to see the truth, when it is finally revealed, we won't be able to thank God enough for that stick over the years. To do for us what we couldn't do for ourselves because we can't even see past our own personal drama. It's all about me. I just want to ignore everything that's going on. I just want life to go back to how it was. If we just got rid of Gaza, then that would be it and everything would be beautiful. No, it wouldn't, and you know it wouldn't. We have lost our shame, parading our rebellious decadence and filth in the streets, even here in Jerusalem, in schools also, and normalizing it. And we are losing our humanity, which is why God sent subhumans to attack us. Oh yes, I said it. Leviticus 26. God says exactly what he's going to do if we treat him as happenstance, starting with the pride of our strength, our strong and invincible IDF, and its fearless leaders. That kind of blew up on October 7th, didn't it? Our iron dome that protects us from above. Wait for it. Leviticus 26:19. I will break the pride of your strength and make your skies like iron and your land like copper. Your strength will be expended in vain. Your land will not yield its produce, neither will the tree of the earth give forth its fruit. Land and produce, that is the abundance tree of the earth. We are the trees. Our produce, what fruit do we deliver? That's the Torah. In other words, there's hardly going to be any Torah. Your army will not save you. Your economy will crash, and there will be mass panic. I will incite the wild animals of the field against you. Vehishlachti bachem. I will throw, lashliach, the throw. Vehishlachti bachem et chayat hasadeh. And they will bereave you. Wild animals, okay, it says utterly destroy your livestock and diminish you, and your roads will become desolate. Wild animals do not come out of their natural habitat and attack humans unless those humans are Jews who do not live according to the Torah. In which case our sages say that they connect to their nefesh behemit, animal nefesh, meaning we are no better than the beasts of the field, and so, of course, the animals, the predators, the carnivores, they would see us as food. And who are these wild savages that are likened to animals? No offense to animals. Genesis 16:12. And he will be a wild savage of a man. His hand will be upon all, and everyone's hand upon him. And before all his brothers he will dwell. All his brothers, everywhere in the world, right? Bring them all in, no problem. Ve'hu yeh pere Adam. First savage, then in the shape of the man. First, if you want to give a description, hu Adam tov, hu Adam ra, he is a Adam, first Adam, tov, good, bad, whatever. But here it says pere first, savage, wild, then man. First savage, then man, in the shape of a man. The world can see what these people are capable of doing, and the world defends them. Upside down. Still not clear enough. As our soldiers who are fighting them say the same, they have lost tselem enosh, any semblance of humanity. If you saw what they did, no one can do that. We have phone calls of them, right? The guy called up his dad. Father, I just murdered 10 people and with my own hands, and I stole the woman's cell phone. He's calling his dad in Gaza. Son, I am so proud of you. I love you too, Dad. People? You want to call them people? Okay, fine. There's only one shape of human beings. They have no divine spark in them. They are animals, and we are their prey. As the grandson of a Holocaust survivor, on both sides, I can confidently say even the Nazis didn't do that, right? They were systematic murdering bastards, sure. But these guys, pure bloodthirsty savages who raised their children in the same way. I mean, you saw what happened even on 9/11, right? That's a whole nother topic. 3,000 dead Americans, party in the streets of Gaza, right? October 7th here in Israel, party in the streets of Gaza, dragging our hostages through the streets of Gaza, where you have old women and young children beating them to death with sticks. The poor Gazans? Really? We have it all on video. From them. Okay. No, not clear. No problem. I'm speaking of a culture that worships death. Now, God forbid, I'm not speaking of all Arabs here. You have to understand, okay? We have good Muslims. They also fight in the IDF. We have Christians fighting in the IDF, Druzis, Christians and Muslims fighting in the IDF. All good people. But what they believe, again, they will be happy to throw their own children on a grenade to get like a good photo op, right? And these guys savagely beat, raped, tortured, and killed our men, women, and children when Gaza was celebrating. These are the individuals that I'm speaking of. So no, I don't believe that there are any innocents in Gaza. It is a cesspool of death. That is what is going on over there. Democratically elected Hamas, mind you. And the world is defending them. And he who turns away from evil is considered mad. Remember, we're the bad guys. We're crazy. Haben eino mitbayesh ba'aviv. The son is no longer ashamed of his father. We are the son, God is the father. And we have lost our way. This is not even defiance or willful rebellion anymore. This is just happenstance, maybe. This is us saying, I couldn't care less if there is a God or not, if he's aware of me or not. I just don't even consider that possibility because I genuinely don't care. God forbid. Read how many times the word happenstance appears in Leviticus 26 and what comes as a result. It's already here. Now you may be thinking, well, this is bleak. What kind of a future do we have? Why is God doing this? The thing is, he's not actually doing this. We did this, and we continue to do this out of ignorance. Now, I will say this very carefully, okay? We absolutely bear the responsibility of the distance that has been created between us and God. But we are also a product of the system of the world, coming out of it. First of all, recognizing it, that's the first thing. And then coming out of it, detaching yourself from it is something like without help. I'm talking about God's help and the people around you or anybody, somebody who's actually aware of this to help you navigate. It's near impossible, okay? But it still is possible, but certain people are privy to it. If you're not totally in with Torah in the end, there's almost no way that you'll be able to see it at all. And so, in a sense, we can no longer do for ourselves because we don't know what to do. We don't know how to unplug. That's the difference. You see, again, if I have friends or family or people that are in the know and they are aware of what is happening, they're aware of prophecies, they're aware of the things that I'm reading you today, and they see, they're like, okay, yes, of course, this is terrifying, but we see what comes next. Whereas people that don't even want to look at this, it's all God stuff or whatever, they are terrified for a different reason. Their world is coming to an end. They're not wrong. It absolutely is coming to an end. We are focusing on what comes after that. That's why we have to go through this. Okay, so this concept could seem so foreign and ridiculous to most people. It's like if you were, I'm thinking of these things while I was like writing this. So I wrote down a deep sea diver. You've gone so deep beneath the surface, right? I don't know anything about diving, but deep below the surface, you can barely see. It's so dark. You know that you need all the rest of your air to somehow get up there. But then when you're down there, you hear a voice telling you, remove your oxygen mask. And you'd be thinking, what are you, stupid? You're trying to kill me? Of course I'm not going to do that. This is what is going to eventually come, as there needs to be a shock or like jolt, not only to the world system, but to us as individuals to break us free. It's almost like we have to die to kind of live. The other thing that I was thinking of, remember, what was it? It was the Abyss, James Cameron, The Abyss. Great movie, by the way. Don't want to spoil it, but basically, in order for them to go to those depths of the sea, they had to drown themselves in this liquid. So they had to die for a second, but then they were able to breathe underwater and go to extreme depths. It's really cool. But that concept, like I said, just a jolt to the system, like, whoa, what just happened? Okay. So the system we grew up with, call it the American dream, democracy, Western culture, the Age of Enlightenment. The whole thing is a complete lie designed to keep us away from God. Don't say, no, I could do this and I honor God. No, 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 no. If you actually learn what God says and the ways of God, it is opposite to anything that is being run today. And I can prove it by doing nothing, okay? You still believe in a system that has already proved itself to be corrupt time and again, time and again. Everything I said up until now, you agree with me. Why? Because I'm just pointing to things that currently are, not even things that will be. Yes, 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 yes. No, but we hope that it gets better. Who are you fooling now? Come on. This is your system. The system is already dead. It is the ignorant masses who keep it alive, suckling on its rotting corpse. And you think, well, this is what everybody's doing. I may as well do it. It's not who Jews are. We were always called to be separate. What small benefit it may have temporarily provided for us at one point in time is long gone. The oxygen that you are breathing now is clearly poison. It even says so on the fictitious canister, but you keep inhaling because that's all you know. But guess what? No one can fault you for it. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm giving information. I'm giving you knowledge. Do what you will with that knowledge, right? But remember, Hosea 4:6, my people were snuffed out because they had no, for the lack of knowledge, because you rejected knowledge of God. God rejects you and your children. Don't bring it to that. We all have the ability to discern, especially when it becomes so painfully obvious, but people don't want to look at it. That's what I'm trying to say. But to deny what is right in front of you because you don't want to see it or because it's too difficult, that is insanity. People naturally choose to remain with the monster they know than to face the unknown. But what's coming is not unknown. It's very, very much known. What's coming is what has been given to us thousands of years ago. We received the very well laid out plan, which is unfolding before our very eyes. What we just read before was not relevant at any other point in time in history, but today it is. We are in the heels. There's nowhere left to go. And now, how does this section of the Mishnah close out? Ve'al mi yesh lanu leishayin. And upon who is there for us to rely? Al Avinu shebashamayim. On our Father in heaven. This point goes back to the Great Ascent, right? The video couple of these teachings ago from our series. God is showing us mercy by helping us get to places we could never have gotten on our own, right? Only when we are squeezed, that's when the truth actually comes out, because everything else falls away. Just as the children of Israel were facing certain death as the walls closed in and they were stuck purposefully between the raging sea and the might of the bloodthirsty Egyptian army, who did Israel have to lean on? Well, no. Okay. And so you will see that just as God dismantled the system of the world at that time, which was Egypt, so too he is doing to this current system. But you need to willingly leave Egypt. That's what everything is about. You still have to make a choice. Otherwise, you have no future. Otherwise, like the 80% of our people, you will be snuffed out when the lights go out. Remember, we are Israel. We believe in God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No problem. But we don't want to leave Egypt, meaning we don't want to leave the world system. But that world, just like this world, is going to completely pass away. You need to understand this. Everything has to collapse. When I say everything, I mean everything. And we will discuss this in future teachings, one by one. What it says, what is happening. What it says, what is happening. In detail. Everything I'm discussing right now, this is all general, but we're going to break it down. Don't you worry now. One by one, God is removing the options to which we can turn for salvation, starting with America. After October 7th, for a few short weeks, let me tell you what it was like here in Israel. We were one people in the land. No Orthodox or secular, left or right, we were all Jews. And back to our purest form. It was us against them. That's it. Everyone's trying to kill us. The enemy is clear, but you're my brother, right? Right? I couldn't care less what you look like. By the way, this is what it's like right now in Gaza. I have family and friends in there. They couldn't care less who's Orthodox or who's secular, who they voted for. These people are fighting together and dying together. They're the ones sending the videos that the media is not promoting, telling the politicians, if you have nothing to say that doesn't unite us, shut your mouths, stemutape, shut up, shut your hole. That's what they're saying, because that's really what it's like. But the powers that be, the government, the media, division, division, division. They are sowing division amongst us, but that is not the reality on the ground here in Israel. We are all one. So what you see and what they're showing you, that's who is corrupt, you see. We were all praying together. Jewish men were requesting tefillin and tzitzit. The most sought after item in Israel was tzitziot. Tzitzit. My sister is saying she was preparing tzitzit. They gave almost 1 million of them to the army. It's your spiritual bulletproof vest, if you will. For the first time in their lives, they were putting these things on. And there was a sense of unity unlike anything I had experienced in my lifetime. A small inkling of that, I would say. I was in New York during 9/11. Actually, I witnessed it happen. I was there. The way New Yorkers were together, America, of course, but New Yorkers, everybody was brother and buddy. How you doing? And it was a sense of community, right? After tragedy, that's usually what happens, right? But here, all eyes were on God. Bezrat Hashem natzeach, nenatzeach beyachad, Bezrat Hashem natzeach. Everything was pray to God, Shema Yisrael, everybody. There was crazy unity, eyes were on God. Until the system of the world had had enough. When the false God, the great savior of Israel, America, brought her warships to our shore for no good reason, nothing. Do you know how quickly the rhetoric turned from God will save us and with God's help we will win together to, yay, America's 7th Fleet is going to protect us, save us, deliver us. No more eyes there. Eyes are now there. Thank you, Biden. Who's running what now? Okay. And what happened within that same week here in Israel? The protests started up again, and so did the division. It's a formula. No longer were we one people. And so, since we look to America to save us, that only means that they will be removed from the equation as well. Israel was always alone, and always meant to be alone, because when it comes down to it, no one will come to our aid. To the contrary, all will turn on us. I'm not talking about good individuals from the States and the rest of the world that really genuinely love Israel. I'm not talking about you guys. Love you, okay? We will see each other, for sure. I'm talking about the powers that be, the system, the governing system of this world. Everyone is going to turn on us. We know this because it's written in the prophecies, right? And yes, this also means our bestest of evers as friends is the great US of A. We were alone in times of trouble at our lowest, from Lamentations 1:1, the destruction of the first temple. Oh, how the city that was once so populous remained alone. She has become like a widow. She that was great among the nations, a princess among the provinces, has become tributary. Eichai yashva badad ha'ira bati. We just read this on Tisha B'Av. And in the end of days, in triumph, we will also be alone. From Numbers 23:9, from the words of the wicked Bilam. Far from their beginning, I see them as mountain peaks, and I behold them as hills. It is a nation that will dwell alone, and will not be either reckoned, counted, considered among the nations. Who are these guys? Nothing. Alone means alone. A sheep among 70 wolves. The 70 nations all coming against Israel, but with God, never alone. And here in Israel, to the very plans and schemes that this world system has put into play, Jews are finally waking up to the truth. And that is that we have no one to rely upon. I had this conversation with a dear friend of mine. Hey, what's going on? Ugh, don't ask. I'm depressed. I'm stressed. I'm terrified. I'm not sleeping. And I feel like I just can't rely on anybody or anything. I heard this. I'm like, all I said was Baruch Hashem. Why? What do you mean? Well, what you're saying is prophecy, basically. Excellent. We're all getting to that point where you have no one to rely upon. So people are actually waking up to this truth. They're seeing it, right? People have lost faith, for instance, in our military. 12 hours, no response on that fateful day. Again, with all the garbage that came with it, both before and after, and still currently is there. And thanks to social media, though, the truth cannot be covered up. Only spun and redirected, throwing distractions our way, but people still see the truth. People have no faith in the police. It is very clear which side they are on, and they don't serve the public but the interests of those who pay them. Beating up on one group, the God-fearers, while allowing the maniacs from within to run rampant in the streets, lighting fires, disrupt traffic, destroying property with no repercussions. Yep, just like those maniacs in the States for the 4 years, right? You see a connection? Do you see the pattern? It's global. This vocal minority causing a stir in a particular group on the left, that's it. It's happening, okay? People have lost faith in the government and the entire system. It doesn't matter whether it's the left or the right. The same policies always end up going out in the same direction, none of which benefit the Jews in the land. Doesn't matter if it's left or right. People have lost faith in the health system. That's pretty simple since Israel signed over our individual rights and freedoms to the World Health Organization. This actually happened. They have all my information right now. And so they will decide what happens when the next virus of unknown origins just so happens to emerge in a time when it is most convenient. You think I'm making this stuff up? I wouldn't dare say this if it wasn't true. You can't make this stuff up. I saw the bill. You know, in what a sneaky way that bill was passed, too. And that's not a far left or right thing. It passed across the board. We were sold, as it says in the book of Esther, Ani v'aminim karnu, meaning like people have been sold. You can't make this stuff up. If you are disturbed right now, good. Don't close your eyes, though. It gets better. People have lost faith in family and friends because if someone says anything that goes against the status quo, then that person is called hateful, inhumane, evil by the general public down to their inner circle. You're a conspiracy theorist. Okay, hey, we're running all out of the theories because all these conspiracies are currently taking place. Here's a classic example I'll give you, okay? Something that we can all clearly see the effects of today. We all know the story of Gilad Shalit, right? The kidnapped soldier that was released, when was it? A bunch of years ago. But the deal was to release over 1,000, I think it was like 11 or 1,200 terrorists with Jewish blood on their hands. In other words, they murdered Jews, okay? All of them, every last one of them, for this one guy, this one soldier. Among those who were released, was Yihya Sinwar, one of the masterminds of October 7th massacre, who is still running the show in Gaza from beneath the tunnels like the rat that he is. We had him, and we released him. Not only did we have him, but Israel performed 2 life-saving surgeries, brain surgeries on him. God bless our bleeding hearts. As these 1,000 plus murders were being released on camera, everybody saw this. They were all pledging to go out once again and to kill Jews for this one guy. You don't do that. But God forbid, and they set up tents outside the prime minister's house and did this, release Gilad, bring him home. It doesn't matter what the cost. October 7th is the cost. If God forbid you had an opinion on that, right, on that deal, that is clearly putting Israel in even more danger, you were called all the names in the book because that wasn't the status quo. That is what the general consensus was. Same thing today. Look where everything is going. Dare to speak up against that. see what everybody throws at you. In most cases, regardless, not only in military things, go to the States, say this, you're a racist, sexist, this and that. You know the deal, okay? This is not new. This has been happening for years. So again, because of that release from a decade ago, here we go, today. And who did it? Who was the one that made this deal? The same dude who's sitting in office today. Coincidence? Really? Okay. Other winning examples. Obama and Biden making a deal with Iran. How'd that work out? Make the deal. It's a good deal. The deal is better than no deal. No, it's not. No, it's not. We told you it's not. You didn't listen. Obviously, because you know exactly what you're doing. Has nothing to do with the deal. These are agreements. The Oslo Accords in 93, which gave our enemies weapons. The Oslo Accords, that was a left-wing government. They armed the Palestinian police who says we want to kill Jews. So let's give them weapons. And what happened in the very same week? They started killing Jews with the guns that we gave them. It is insane. Almost immediately, right? And this was done by the left-wing government. How about uprooting Jews from Gush Katif around Gaza, taking out the buffer zone on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av of all times, saying, and the left was saying this, right? Do you really think, I remember watching them in the Knesset in Parliament saying, do you really think if we're going to give the Gazans Gush Katif, they're going to fire rockets into Ashdod, Ashkelon, and Tel Aviv? You're crazy, said the left. What? Where are you today now? What's right? We have to pay attention to these things. So, who uprooted the Jews from the land of Israel, from Gush Katif on Tisha B'Av? That was a right-wing government. You see, it doesn't matter if it's left or right. There is only right and wrong. And so, there is no one to rely upon. En al milishan. This statement has never been truer than it is today. I'm trying to shatter your world. You need to just listen to this till the end, please, okay? Don't get me wrong. It was always like this, but now you can clearly see what is going on. It can be seen by everybody. There's no hiding this anymore. The examples I brought up were from the last 10, 20, 30 years, and we're seeing the repercussions today, and it doesn't matter if it's left or right wing. The beauty is we actually do have who to lean on and who to rely upon. And that is only on our Heavenly Father. Rak al Avinu shebashamayim. You know, I often wondered why the Mishnah chose that description of God instead of Hashem, God, Melech Malachim Lachim, the Holy One, blessed be He, the Master of the Universe, Elohim, Hashem Tzvaot, right? All these names depict power and strength. But this isn't about God's strength. He is literally the creator, master of the universe, right? He doesn't need to prove it. This is about the relationship between us. All these all the world changing, the reality changing, as existential crises that will ultimately lead to a cataclysmic event, God wants us to look at Him as our Father, specifically, Avinu Shebashamayim. Daddy says, I'm here whenever you're ready. Just know, okay? As the time comes near, things will be squeezed and then there will be nothing else but us and Dad, right? When you're ready. And if we're taking our sweet time because we are so confused with all the nonsense and the shenanigans, then Daddy says, okay, you're not getting it. Let me help you out a little bit, okay? Oop. There goes the military. There goes the police. There goes the health system. Son, are you still not getting it? No? Okay. Boom. There goes the education system. There goes the news media. How we doing? No, not good? Okay. Boom. There goes all our international friends that always had our back and would never leave us. And there go our real life friends as well. We good? Not yet? Okay, boom. There goes the government and any semblance of structure or order. How we doing? Well, there's nothing else. Aha. Bingo. Now we're talking. There it is. And yes, it all has to crumble and be completely removed from existence because so long as it is there, Since we have no idea what it actually means to be Jews, everything's gotta go. The Maharal of Prague said in his book Netzach Israel, chapter 35, that every new reality means a total loss of the reality that came before it, referring to the coming of Mashiach and the new world order that comes with it. Okay? In other words, for what is coming, what is has to be unrecognizable. Nothing can remain. None of the world systems can remain. Nothing will remain because it's rotten to the core. To most, this is, like we said, this is absolutely terrifying. But to the few of us who had been fortunate enough to see behind the veil, not everything, obviously, just bits and pieces, putting it together with what other people see as well who have this understanding, but just enough to be able to discern the lies from the truth, we are the crazy ones, right? We just read that. This was written. Okay, this should be a comfort to you. I say fortunate though, right? Because we had nothing to do with it. Like we said, God is the one that gives us understanding. Okay? All we had was a desire to know the truth. Now, the truth is not asking God to confirm your belief. The truth is not asking your local rabbi to give you the answers you want so you can maintain your lifestyle. Like I said, how many local and national rabbis in the States will discourage you from moving to Israel? You don't need to. You're fine. God is everywhere. Yes, God is everywhere. But if you believe in God and you believe in his Torah, God says be in Israel. Even more so, look at the prophets. It's not going to be good for Jews who are outside of Israel in the end times. Your blood is on their hands. So then what's the difference between you and the kingdom of Israel from back in the day, who were taken from their land when they refused to listen to the warnings of the prophets and instead bought their own false prophets who told them everything would be okay? Sure, King Ahab, you will be victorious. But he was not, because he didn't want to listen to the real prophets. We got prophets. I'm not a prophet. I'm reading to you what the prophets say. Didn't really work out in the end. When you listen to false prophets, everything is going to be fine. You can no longer claim ignorance because you have everything available to you, but you refuse to look. Like I said, I'm not a prophet, but I am presenting to you what our prophets and sages have said. I am not a sage, I'm not a wise man, nor am I a Torah scholar, nor am I a rabbi. I'm just a Jew from Jerusalem who is desperately holding up warning signs. What else can I possibly do? And sure, I get ridiculed, made fun of, laughed at, sometimes by members of my own family, and it hurts. Sure it does. But I don't care because it's the truth. And I don't mind being a fool. If it means I'm doing anything to help save our people, oftentimes from themselves, I genuinely don't care. We need Jews here. I know it's hard for most people to accept the things that I said, but I've seen things, okay? I've been places and I found these things out the hard way. There's no guide and no safety net. It was the loneliest time and most difficult time in my life, but it was in those darkest moments that you actually find peace, truth, strength, direction, focus, and purpose. And you better believe that clarity will ensue. Because those times in our lives when we truly feel alone, though we might be surrounded by people, there is a disconnect from everything and from the system of this world ever so briefly, just enough to give you that moment of clarity. You just need a peek for a moment and it will change your reality. It matters less when this takes place in your life, but that it takes place at all. And so I say this to you, let us not forget, there is hope. As difficult as it was for you to hear this, and I know it's difficult, okay? It's not easy for me to say it. I had to go through this plenty of times, and like I said, it is taking a toll on me. It makes me uncomfortable, and if I get swept into it, it's a hard pill to swallow. But we need to hear this because, like all things, there is a flip side. That's what we will be focusing on. But again, I'm here right now to give you all the information. Do with it as you will. But also I'll be here to encourage you, God willing. So please just stick with me. All right. So, and that is that our sages Ruach HaKodesh have given us the plans. They told us that this is happening, step by step of what is going to transpire. And behold, it would seem that they know a thing or two. And so we know that Mashiach is right around the corner. I would even say he's here and now. Is that not mercy? No one gets caught with their pants down unless it's by choice, in which case your blood is on your own hands. You have been warned. Look around you. You are being warned every day, all the time, everywhere. There's nowhere to hide. But also, they left us, our sages, they left us instructions on how to survive what is to come. And yes, I chose my words carefully with survive. So what do we do? From Masechet Sanhedrin 98b, the students of Rabbi Elazar asked, what shall a person do to be spared from the pains, from the chavalim, preceding the coming of Mashiach? Rabbi Elazar said to them, they shall engage in Torah study and acts of kindness. Didn't say Torah scholar. Like I said, I'm not a Torah scholar. I'm not a Torah genius. I'm nothing. I'm a Jew from Jerusalem who's giving you a message. That is it. We are not called, like in the first teaching, we are not called to be a generation of scholars and of righteous people. We are a generation of emunah. Believe that there is a God. Believe that he gave you the Torah and do to the best of your ability in order to live that. To the best of your ability. Take it one step at a time. Between you and God, what can you do? But again, between you and God, because at the end of the day, it is going to be, again, you and God. And I'll be like, why didn't you do that? I had a hard day. No, you're going to be very real. Very, very real. Okay? We need to do what we can. We need to be in constant motion, in an upward motion. Our sages say that if we are not ascending, we are descending. There is no plateau. That's an illusion. Everything in this world is black or white. Everything in this world is one or the other. There is no gray area. The system of the world created this gray area for you. That's where most people live. But the Torah is, there's mitzvah and avirah. There's a mitzvah and then there's a sin. That's it. It's very clear. Within those things, yes, there are explanations, but this whole gray area where everybody lives, that is the system of the world. And that is a lie. That's all, it's all going to be taken away. Engage in Torah study and acts of kindness. This is what is going to save you from the things that are coming right before the days of Mashiach. It's pretty clear, isn't it? We need only look and to see the state of the world, but we need to look. It is our responsibility to look. So I'm going to close with this, okay? This is fascinating. I want to read a small passage from the Talmud, Baba Batra 10b, which speaks to this point and just how extreme everything is. Rabbi Abahu says, they asked King Solomon, who is one who is destined for the world to come? He said to them, all those about whom it is stated, and before his elders will be his glory. Isaiah 24:23, referring to those who are honored in this world due to their wisdom and Torah study. Yes, those who dvekim b'Torah. Like Yosef, son of Rabbi Yehoshua, who became ill and fainted. Apparently he was dead for a bit, right? When he returned to good health, his father said to him, what did you see when you were up there? Get this. He said, I saw an upside down world. Olam hafuch ra'iti. I saw an upside down world. Elyonim lemata v'tachtonim lemala. Those that above were below, and those below were above. Those above, meaning those who are considered important, whatever and whomever the world holds today in high regard in this world, were below, meaning above, they were below, they were insignificant. While those below, meaning those who are considered insignificant by the public, those who fear sin in this world, the wise, the scholars, those who fear sin, the humble, they were above. Rabbi Yoshua said to him, you have seen a clear world. That is the real world. You understand? That is what is supposed to be. What we have today, this is not real. It is upside down. The world you have seen is the true world, one in which one's spiritual and moral standing determines his true importance. Not your bank account, not your honor, your glory, your status, how many Instagram peoples you got, okay? That's not what is important. Rabbi Yoshua further asked him, and how did you see us, meaning the Torah scholars over there? Yosef said to him, just as we are important here, we are important there because of their Torah study. Remember, these Tanaim, though they were aware of the upside down world that they dwell in, they had little connection to it. In other words, among us, we stand over here because we are delivering God's Torah. And so too it was over there. That status is unchanged. That's where it needs to be. In regard to other people, that's the only thing that changed in the matters of the world, the lenses of the world. Yosef added, and I heard that they were saying, meaning he heard in the upper worlds what they were saying, in that world, happy is the one who arrives with his studies in hand. That's the only thing that we take with us in the world to come. You can't take your money or status, but our Torah, this world and in the world to come. And I also heard that they were saying those executed by the government enjoy such exalted status that no one can stand in their vicinity. Warning of the governments even back in the day. We, my friends, we are in an upside down world. We always have been. Only it's becoming clear now more so than ever by design because we are so close to the end. Everything is coming up. Why is God doing this? So people cannot say, but I didn't know. People now can only say, I chose not to look. In which case, 80% in the darkness. Don't be one of those, please. You have all the answers. Okay? Question is, what are you going to do about it? I hope you found this beneficial. I understand this is a lot of heavy stuff and things will continue to get heavy, but this all has a very happy ending. So please stick with it. I don't have like I said in the first one, I don't really have a plan for this. I'm just giving you all the information that I have. I'm connecting the dots. You might have known some of these things, but I'll show you how it's all relevant to now our signs and our times. We're also going to get into deeper Kabbalistic studies about what our sages say happens to your soul when you are inside the land of Israel, outside the land of Israel, and so on and so forth. Just to give you all the information, and you do with it what you will. I believe those with a true neshama Yehudit, they will be coming to Israel, while those who are really not Jews, and there's a mass exodus from Israel right now, they don't need to be here. As it says 2,000 years ago in the Zohar, they are Erev Rav. So, please pass this along to anyone else you believe needs to hear this. Send me an email if you have any questions. I'll do my best to give you a buzz, okay? Please be respectful. And thank you so much for joining me. Please be safe. And I hope to see you all again on the next one, if you're brave enough. Bye-bye.